Good morning, my friends. I thought for today's check-in and video, talking about some seriously wild topics going on in the world, I would walk around with you today instead of how I've been stationary the last few vids. Let's take a walk. You can check out the scenery as we talk about some wild topics. We're talking the first doctor dies after getting the COVID vaccine. I saw Dr. Garth Davis, who is an awesome cardiovascular plant-based doctor, post about it. He's super science-based, super logical, and so I got some interesting revelations on that. We got pineapples growing here. Thought I should show you that. Look at that. Crown of a pineapple turns into a pineapple to another crown of a pineapple. So you can see the different stages. Here's the babies, their flowers. So awesome. This is still my rental house. This isn't my land, but we got fruiting pineapples on my land too. We're gonna talk about the Trump coup for a little bit. Trump's last week and a half of presidency and what went down in the Capitol and my take on it. And we might talk about a few other things, but let's see. First, let's talk about the Trump coup. So I guess, there's this weird connection that I've found between the vegan, yogic, plant medicine alternative community and some of them being like Trump supporters and conspiracy theorists, because they're just kind of so obsessed with being out there and different from the mainstream. I've studied Trump and politics and establishment politics versus progressive, liberal ideas for the middle class or average person long enough. I've been into it, watching so many different news sources, from Democracy Now! To conservatives like Ben Shapiro, and mainstream news like Fox or CNN, and then The Guardian and The Intercept and The Young Turks and The Jimmy Dore Show, David Pakman. I go all around and consume news and interesting stuff about politics and the state of the world and corruption from so many news sources. I truly feel I have a pretty objective idea of the way. Of course, everyone thinks that, but I don't only stay in my bubble. So it's so clear to me that if you believe that Trump is an anti-establishment person and that CNN and the mainstream news is just fake news and Trump is actually out there to take down the greedy and the power and do good for the average or middle class person, you're a fucking kook. You are. Trump has shown in so many ways, all he did in his presidency was try to dismantle good government institutions like the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and he puts in corporate people with the revolving door of politics from industry to into government. Put in this guy who has been spending his whole private career trying to get rid of environmental regulations on behalf of his financial gain. And then you see him less taxes on the rich, taking away national parks and opening them up to privatization. And then all of the incitement of violence and lies, he says, around this election being fraudulent. So if you think that the election was fraudulent, how come every single court case that Trump and his goons, like his lawyer Rudy Giuliani, every case, and you can watch them, they're all public, they lost in the last month when they came to these different state and then federal courts and said, hey, do an investigation to see if there was voter fraud, and all of them came back saying there's no legitimate amount of voter fraud that would have overturned the election. To you, bro, you lost. You're just a sore loser. And he continues literally up till to this day to say, no, there was voter fraud. That's your opinion, bro. You got to trust the courts, that they're objective and did their best to find said voter fraud, and it did not show up. So Trump keeps on tweeting and saying, "No, this election was rigged, I won." And then his white, male, racist, anti-Semitic followers that he incites go and break the barriers at the Capitol, the protest barriers, and vandalize the Capitol. And go into the Senate floor and make a mockery of our democracy, saying this election was rigged and stolen, when it just wasn't. So that's my take on essentially the Trump coup. Trump's a sore loser. He loves greed. He doesn't care about our democracy. The election was not fraudulent. There was not legitimate amounts of voter fraud. Biden won because Trump's a fucking idiot, and Americans saw that. And then he cries and is a sore loser, and then his sycophant idiot and followers, and I say racist and anti-Semitic because they were holding Confederate flags, some people, as they were storming through the Capitol building. The Confederacy was a group of Americans trying to separate from America because America was trying to ban slavery. So when you hold the Confederate flag, you're saying, I like the people who wanted to keep slavery more than I like America. So you're anti-American if you hold up a Confederate flag. And there were people wearing sweatshirts saying Camp Auschwitz, making like a joke that Nazi camps were like summer camps. So those are the kind of people that like Donald Trump, and Trump has incited that base and brought them together. Whew. So that's what I think about that. It wasn't a legitimate protest. The Black Lives Matter protests, they actually had a reason to protest. These people at the Capitol, which was police brutality, the people at the Capitol were protesting for something that was not baseless. This election was not stolen. And if you're someone who thinks that the voter fraud was real and they were throwing out thousands of votes for Trump, you're cuckoo. You're cuckoo based on them presenting zero evidence in court that happened. It was just their opinion, the Trump people. So here I will give a little bit of sympathy to Trump. Not to Trump, actually. It's just kind of anti the reaction from private tech industry. So on that night, 2 nights ago, when they were storming the Capitol, Twitter and Facebook blocked and locked Trump out of their accounts on Twitter and Facebook because he was literally tweeting as they were storming the Capitol, I love you guys, you're great people, but just go home in peace. Don't make this too crazy. But fueling their fire as well by not condemning them, but saying, and he said, like, I know you're angry that this election was stolen from us, which it wasn't, already proven in court, so there's a lie. Fueling them to say, yeah, they stole it from you, man. We're gonna storm Congress as they officially vote you in. And so because of Twitter and Facebook thinking that he was continuing to stoke this violence from the protesters, they blocked him out of his own account, so he couldn't make posts that night, and he's still blocked out of his Facebook account, Mark Zuckerberg says, until the transition happens and he's out of being president. I don't agree with that. Obviously, they're private corporations, so they're allowed to do whatever they want. So it's legal for them to block Trump out of his own accounts because they think the potential damage he could do to incite violence is so great, they don't want that on their platform, and they blocked him out. That is allowed to be done, but I just don't believe in it or support in it, because I think that the internet, the power of the internet, is that it's so open and of the people. You should be able to be an absolute idiot, especially if you're the president, and show how you feel about things while being able to express it, even if it does fucked up shit, because the alternative is a world where the internet is regulated and blocked, and if an internet company doesn't believe in something you believe in, like me saying veganism can prevent or reverse heart disease, which I think is very practical. And hey, Maggie, hey, Maggie, you don't go down there, because when you go down there, you eat the trash from the neighbors and you get sick, like happened a few months ago. So get back here. Hey, yeah, come on. Come on. So I think the internet should be radically open, and people shouldn't get blocked out of their accounts just because these internet companies disagree with what they say. Of course, if you're literally trying to put together a freaking death march and kill people and you're making an event on Facebook or Twitter, you should absolutely be blocked out of that, because that's direct violence that you're trying to create. But to block the president, come on, like, we know who he is. We know he's crazy and ridiculous, and I feel like that's internet censorship to block him out of his accounts. I really do. Maggie, get back here now, you little devil. I'm not letting you get sick and eating the trash from the neighbors. Okay, so that's what I think about that stuff. Let me know if you disagree down below. Next, let's talk about this post I saw from Garth Davis, and then I looked and there's all these articles about it. It happened yesterday. A doctor in Miami. I got my notes here. I want to make sure I get all the information correct. Hope you guys are doing well, by the way. I don't think we're going to do any blood work or spiritual talk in this one because it's already too long and shit's so crazy with the world and the state of politics in the US, and I'm into following that and seeing the ebbs and flows of our democracy and culture, and this COVID information is kind of interesting, so we'll probably just keep it at that for today. But 5 million vaccines have been distributed in the US alone already. 5 million. And it looks like there's only been 29 cases of severe allergic reactions to the vaccine and 11.1 cases of anaphylaxis per 1 million doses administered. So what I take from that is just based on the first couple weeks of the vaccine, and of course some of you are going to say, yeah, but you don't know the impacts of the vaccine if you get it a year down the line, 2 years down the line. True. We're not going to know until that happens. And if a bunch of people get sick and drop dead or become sterile in a year or 2 or 3 or 10, maybe you were right. But for now, all we can see is there's a very tiny percentage of negative consequences immediately from people getting the vaccine. That's just a fact. There's been 5 million vaccines in the US alone, and only a handful of cases of people having an immediate bad reaction. Sorry, that's just the facts. So this doctor who's in his 50s takes the vaccine and 2 weeks later drops dead, but he didn't really have any other health conditions. And there's not much information that we can report on right now because there's just not information out. They did an autopsy, but they're still trying to figure out if they can connect his death to the vaccine, which they can't yet. But it just definitely is a good trigger and something to look at, that this happened. We don't know why this guy died, this doctor, and this story is new, so we don't know, but we got to keep an eye on it and be objective. You know, again, as I said in the beginning, there is a correlation between, I think some of the people who watch my videos and are really into holistic natural health and alternative stuff have a correlation between not trusting Western medicine or mainstream media and have some conspiratorial thoughts about COVID and the vaccine. And my stance, as I've stated before, is that I'm kind of selfish, and personally, because I'm natural and organic and healthy and young, and all the statistics show that COVID is not dangerous, even if you get it, for people who are, where are these? Sorry, I'm tripping. Oh, wow, that rack of bananas. Whoa, sorry. Wait, let me finish this thought and then I'll show you what happened. So, with his banana plant. So we have seen that even if you get COVID, if you are young and healthy, which I'm in that category, the percent chance of it doing long-term damage or killing you is so low. I'm literally not even afraid to get COVID, to be honest. I've even had some situations, there's a chance I have the antibodies and I'm asymptomatic, because it's turned out that I've talked to people like face to face who later I find out had COVID at that time. I haven't been sick in over a year, so who knows? But I'm not going to get the vaccine because I just don't feel the need to. I'm not even afraid to get COVID, and it'd be nice to not get the vaccine. But I fully think that if you're in the high risk category, pre-existing conditions, you're old, or for some reason you just feel like you want to get it to become immune, get it. And the stats are showing that there's not a high percentage chance of it probably being dangerous long-term or short-term, but we don't know. So I'm not saying you're crazy if you doubt the vaccine and think it's all crazy and it's going to be really bad for you. There's good reason for you to think that, just because it's a new vaccine that was kind of super fast, rapid progress to administration from creating it. So that's something to be a little sketched out about, but these are extreme cases and situations, and they put a lot of money really fast to get this thing approved earlier than most vaccines. So I think the vaccine is probably totally fine for the vast majority of people who take it, but who am I to say? I'm not a doctor. It's just based on the research. All right, last little bit here of today's video. These are banana plants. Sometimes when a rack of bananas gets super heavy and some rains come in or wind, it will break the plant, and that looks like this happens. So it's still probably connected with some water and nutrients, so I technically don't have to harvest this rack, but it's probably time. These are big fat bananas. I usually wait until some of them start to get yellow and the birds start to eat at the bananas until I harvest it, just to get the peak ripeness. So I might keep it on actually, because so this plant just fell because this rack got so heavy. But probably in the next day or two I'll harvest this rack, cut it right here, let it ripen up at the house. Oh yeah, look at it splitting in there. I'll probably harvest it today. And then you cut down this whole part of the plant right there at the base, and then you let the energy come to this next shoot that is already growing, which will produce another rack in about 6 to 8 months. Much love, Dream Extreme. Please leave your comments down below if you agree with me, disagree, questions for me to answer in the next video. I really appreciate you guys. This is such a fun community. I love interacting with you. It brings me a lot of joy. And today I'm going to continue building our farm. I'm going to install drip lines, hopefully in my garden, to increase efficiency so I can grow herbs and foods for us and for you guys when you visit. The house build is going great. We're starting construction. Literally probably today on the cabin, we marked out the dimensions of the cabin we're building for you guys to rent out. We are always working super hard, waking up super early to post videos for you, to continue to build on our land, to grow the best food, so that in a few months I'll start literally inviting you all to come and rent out spaces and come vibe out organically in Costa Rica with the toucans and the durian trees and the herbs and veggies we grow. It's pretty epic. Much love, Dream Extreme.